Is it going? Yes, there it is. All right, guys, so we are recording today's lesson. I wanted to go through, today we have a discussion on the ladder of matter, which is like atoms to galaxies, biotic versus abiotic, producer versus consumer. You've done all of this in middle school and in biology class, and then photosynthesis, which you had plenty of. It's just a review. And then types of producers. Now, types of producers is something that might be new. I'm not talking daisy versus roses. Okay, so we'll go into more detail about that when we get in our discussion today. Tomorrow, we're having another discussion. This is consumers, which is like herbivore, carnivore, omnivore. You know these. Trophic levels, first primary consumer, secondary consumer. Okay, this is all review. Decomposers and detritivores. Now, detritivores, you know decomposer, but detritivore might be new, so I'll tell you about that. And then we have a worksheet over that. Now, this is where I want to focus. On Wednesday, we're going to be setting up and getting ready for a project. The project will start on Thursday. It will be due on the next Tuesday. Okay, so I'm going to give you the preliminary instruction on Wednesday. We'll do the project on Thursday. It will be due on the Tuesday after that. But it's basically constructing a food chain, which you've done since elementary school, but it's a little bit fancier than that. So I'm going to pull up this sheet right here. Okay, this sheet is the one that goes over the basic details of how to do it. All right, let me get this and then get it a little bit bigger because we need to see this page. Whoa. All right, so we'll start off with some questions, and these you'll be doing these with your teams. Okay, because what I've done is each team will get to choose from 3 unique ecosystems. So y'all will choose and you'll have 3 choices, but you don't have the same 3 choices as anybody else. So they're all unique. But together with your team, you'll also be answering these questions. And I need these questions. You need to give me the evidence of where you find your answers on these questions. Okay. That's the first part of it. But here's the cool part. Okay. So you're going to be doing food webs. All right. Food chains. And so here's some of the list of the ones you get to choose. The ecosystem, like there's aquatic and then terrestrial. In the aquatic, you can do forest pond, mountain stream, river, delta, estuary, swamp, open ocean, coral reef, and deep sea vent. Those are all the aquatics. And then terrestrial, you have desert, chaparral, tundra, rainforest, temperate rainforest, island, savanna, prairie grassland, temperate deciduous forest, or boreal forest. And so that's a lot to choose from. So every one of your color groups will get 3 out of that list that you get to choose from. And to get them done, here's one example of how I need you to do it. I think I can see the whole picture. Yeah. All right. So first, this ecosystem is the open ocean. Okay, so we have a picture of the ecosystem. The producer is algae. The primary consumer is the herbivore zooplankton. Do you see how I'm labeling these? Okay, the secondary consumer is the omnivore sardine. The tertiary consumer is the carnivore yellowfin tuna. Now, I didn't just say tuna. I said yellowfin tuna. So I need you to get specific. The quaternary consumer is the carnivore gray seal. And I didn't say seal, I said gray seal. You have to make sure that all of these animals that you're using are correct for this ecosystem. Okay, that's why we're doing a little bit of research. Okay, not a lot of research. They need to be correct for this ecosystem. All right, and then quaternary, which is the 5th level consumer, also called the apex predator, is the carnivore orca. Now you can do separate pictures like this if you want to. You can also do something like this, and this is way cool. Okay, it's too big for the screen. Let me minimize this a little bit. Come on, minimize. Oh, no, I have to do it down here. All right, so this is the temperate deciduous forest. All right, now what I did was I picked a background that was a picture of the temperate deciduous forest, and then I found like clip arts and pictures that were I looked up like blue jay, no background, or blue jay transparent background, and I just cut and pasted these on here. Okay, so here's the example of this one. Okay, this is it's still too big. Hang on, I want to see it all at one time. But I don't, oh, that's gonna be hard for me to read, but that's okay, you guys can read it. All right, so the ecosystem here is the temperate deciduous forest. That's like where we live. Okay, the producer is the dandelion. Okay, not just a plant, dandelion. The primary consumer is the herbivore swallowtail caterpillar. And I didn't just say caterpillar, I said swallowtail caterpillar. The secondary consumer is the omnivore blue jay. Okay, and I didn't say bird, I said blue jay. You see what I'm getting at? And then the tertiary consumer is the carnivore, the corn snake, and the quaternary consumer is the carnivore red-tailed hawk. Now this one is a really cool way to do it, and some of the details on how to do the cutting and pasting and the getting these pictures, I'll go over some of that with you on Wednesday as well if you don't know how to do this yet, because these look really, really cool like this. But you can also do them like this. Okay, either way is perfectly fine. And then what I want to also show you, and again, I'm going to more details on Wednesday. Okay, I'm going to go over this more specifically on Wednesday. I just wanted to give you a heads up and take a look at it. This is over here, how I'm going to be grading it. All right, so let me get this down so I can see it. Whoa, down, down. Come on now. Jeez, hold on. Wait a minute. Okay, that's a little better. Okay. All right, so you grade it on content and accuracy, following directions, creativity, the effort you put in the project, and team collaboration. All right, now you start off with this excellent category, good, satisfactory, and needs improvement. Okay, so I'll be judging that. This bottom one though, this team collaboration, that's on you guys. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to rate how well your teammates help, and they'll rate how well you're helping. All right, this is completely anonymous. They will not see this, and if you don't enter it, you get the lowest score of whatever this, like this 0 to 2. Okay, if you don't turn one into me, you get a 0 to 2 on this. Okay, so this is part of the collaboration. So what you'll do is you put your teammate's name here and put an X or a check where they are super team member, a major go-getter. You helped the team quite a bit. You helped a little bit. You helped little or none at all. Were you even there? Okay, and we know we have some people like this, right? And so we know that it's not fair for those of us who are working on a project to have to carry these people. All right, so you put a check on there. It's completely anonymous, and you can let me know. I probably already know who most of them are, okay? But you can mark it on here, and that way it'll help to affect the scores. All right, so that's how it'll be graded. Now, again, we'll go over more details on this on Wednesday, and we'll actually, oh, wrong one. We'll start this on, go over the details on Wednesday. We'll start it on Thursday. It will be due the following Tuesday. Okay. All right, let's roll up into today's project. Oh, anyway, and so continuing going over the week, the thing on Friday is tiny. It's a little bitty labeling a food web activity because most of you will be finishing the project. Though, however, on Friday night, your notes are also due. The notes for this section are due on Friday night. Knowing that we have this big of a project Wednesday and Thursday, you might want to finish your notes early so you can go ahead and knock it out and get it done with. Like I said, today's assignment is so short, most of you are already done. All right, you might want to knock your notes out early just so that you have time for the project. It's up to you completely, however you do it. All right, so let's look at today's discussion. All right, so what we're talking about in this chapter is in the first section, we covered the spheres, the geosphere, the biosphere, the hydrosphere, and the atmosphere. And we talked about how they interact with one another to create Earth's life support system. Okay, that was section 1. Now in section 2, we're taking an ecosystem, all of the ecosystems, and we're trying to see how the parts of the ecosystem interact to make that run. So we're actually kind of working our way, we worked our way down a little bit. So section 1 was the whole Earth. Okay, all 4 spheres of the Earth, how do they interact? Okay, and section 2 is within an ecosystem. How do the different components of the ecosystem interact? All right, and so that knocking down a notch, that's something we do in science a lot. Okay, this is called the ladder of matter. All right, and what we do, it shows you how you can break things down. It goes atom, molecule, cell. You can see how we're getting from tiny up to bigger on this list, or from bigger down to smaller, whichever you prefer. My son and I sat one day this summer, and he knows about atoms and electrons and stuff. He's 5th grade. And so he was asking about atoms and electrons, and then we were talking about how stars work. And so we worked it from the parts of an atom all the way up through this list, all the way up to solar system and galaxies. Okay, so and then beyond that to the universe and possibly multiverse, because we don't know about that yet for sure. But you can get from the tiniest of something all the way to the great biggest. Now, so the scientists do that all the time. Okay, they classify matter into levels of organization, that's what we call it, ranging from atoms all the way up to galaxies and universes. All right, And there's a typo here for us. Lovely. Okay, but the environmental scientists and ecologists, we study mostly this level here. We go mostly from sometimes cell, but not often, mostly from organism up to biosphere. This is mostly what we focus on for our class. And what we can do is we have a little, to put them in order, a little, what's it called, an acronym? Okay, BECPO, B-E-C-P-O. BECPO, BECPO, to get these from largest down to smallest: biosphere, ecosystem, community, population, organism. Those are the only ones we're really dealing with. And the example of here is this little picture. All right, this little start here with a single organism. This is a wildebeest, and let's pretend his name is Bob. Okay, Bob the wildebeest. Okay, that's a single organism. All right, now we go on up. The next level up is population. Okay, this would be Bob's uncles and aunts and cousins and everybody else who's in Bob's herd. It's not every wildebeest in all of Africa. It's not every wildebeest. Population is what's in his herd, the animals that are nearby him. Okay, so single organism, then population. Next level up is community. Now, community is only all of the living things nearby Bob and his herd. All of the living things, the hyenas, the lions, the grasses and the trees, and the mosquitoes, and the bugs in the soil. Every living thing that's nearby Bob and his population, that's community. Now, the next level up, if we add the abiotic stuff, the non-living things, let's say the water hole and the rock where the lions introduce their babies and the dirt that the termites build their termite mound out of, then we've moved up to ecosystem. Okay, and then beyond ecosystem, there's a subcategory, biome, if we consider all of the savannas in all of Africa. Then after biome, then we go to biosphere. Okay, that one there. So because there's way more than one kind of biome, you have the savanna, and then you have the jungles, and then you have the deserts, and then you have the oceans, and then you have all of those different biomes, and then together those biomes make the biosphere. So to put them in order, biosphere, ecosystem, going big to small, biosphere, ecosystem, community, population, organism, BECPO. Okay, now the only time you'll have some of these, give an example, and you can figure out when I'm talking about a single organism. And if I'm talking about a herd of wildebeest, you know that I'm talking about the population. If I'm talking about all of the humans in the movie theater, I'm talking about a population. Okay, but if I'm talking about every living thing, I say community. But a lot of times when I'm talking every living thing, you guys want to say ecosystem. Ecosystem includes non-living with it. Okay, so ecosystem is living plus non-living. So the only one of these that's ever going to trick anybody up is the difference between community and ecosystem. Community is living things, all of the living things in that area. Ecosystem is living plus non-living. So the difference, living and non-living, brings us to the next thing. The next thing we're talking about is whether or not they're biotic or abiotic. So all of the living things, those would be the biotic things in this community. All the biotic factors in this area is the community. We have biotic plus abiotic, that's the ecosystem. Okay, when we start in the temperature, the heat, all right, the water, the rocks, all of that plus the living things would be the ecosystem. So when we go into living versus non-living, biotic versus abiotic, that's where we get into our next segment. All right, so give me a thumbs up. Let me switch over the chat line. No, hang on. I just raised my hand. Hang on. Lower my hand. All right, I think I lowered it. Yes, okay, now I'm in the chat line. All right, so in the chat line, I want to see how many of you guys make sure you understand the ladder of matter and BECPO, the biosphere down to organism, especially the difference between community and ecosystem, especially the difference between community and ecosystem. Can I see thumbs up if you're understanding me so far? Okay, the ladder of matter and the organization from organism up to biosphere, particularly community versus ecosystem. All right, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Good, guys. Good, good, good. I'm seeing some of you. Is that everybody? Thumbs down if you don't understand. Thumbs up if you do. Okay. I'm kind of checking to see who's listening also. All right, let me see. Thumbs up if you understand me so far. Good, good. Getting there, good, good, good. Lots of folks. Excellent. Oh, this is going good. Okay, now, so moving from here, as I said, the tricky part is community versus ecosystem. And that brings us to biotic versus abiotic. Biotic means living, abiotic means not living. And some of the examples are down here. The living things, people, plants, animals, fungi, bacteria. I'm talking germs, okay? Not viruses. Viruses, no, but bacteria, yes. Okay, so all of the living things are biotic. And the abiotic are the non-living things, atmosphere, chemical elements like nutrients, sunlight, temperature, wind, air, water. All right, now here is a trick question. Okay, so let's not get ahead of myself. Thank you, Alexandria. I see the pretty little extras there. All right, so looking at this diagram, and this is one in your book as well. The precipitation, that's abiotic. Oxygen, carbon dioxide, those are abiotic. Okay, the water, the nutrients, all of those things are abiotic. Okay, abiotic means not living. All right, get that one in. All right, so abiotic means non-living. Let me write that time down. Let's see. Where am I at? Okay, so abiotic means non-living. Okay, 12, 10. Okay, but here's a question. There's a dead rabbit down here. I mean, I know it's gross. Okay, apparently he was, Fox wanted to get him 2. He's eaten 1 and he's trying to get another one. So if this dead rabbit, does it count as biotic or abiotic? Y'all hit the mic. What do you think? Living or not, biotic or abiotic? Because you would think it's dead, right? Okay, so
Right.
yeah, it is not abiotic. It is dead, but it was once alive. So you're right. So I think somebody told me on the mic that it was biotic. It was once alive, so it's still considered biotic, even though it's dead right now. It was once alive, so it's considered biotic. All right, so the other tricky part is stuff like animal poo, and I'm sorry, animal poo is also considered biotic because it came from a living organism. So dead organisms and stuff that comes from living organisms are also biotic. The abiotic is stuff that was never alive. Okay. So looking at this list, the abiotics, precipitation, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water, nutrients. Are there any other abiotics that you guys can see listed drawn in this picture that aren't listed? An abiotic or two that are not listed? Abiotic that's not labeled on here. Can you send it in the chat or just speak it in the mic? Does anybody see one? An abiotic that is not labeled. Anybody think they see one? If you think you see one, tell me what it is. Does anybody see it? You can just tell me in the mic. You don't have to type it if you don't want to. And don't put your hands up right now because I can't see them. Sorry, somebody has a hand up. I knew that would happen. I have my hand up still. I thought I put it down. Okay, so back over here to the chat box. Nope, I did it again. There's the chat box. All right, let's see what you got. The soil. Now that's a tricky question. Okay, that one is a both. The soil, I did want you to answer soil because I wanted to tell you about that. When you're talking about soil, if you're talking about the sand or the chunked up rocks in soil, then yes, it's abiotic without a doubt. However, if you're talking about yes, that's what I was looking for, the sun and sunlight, it most definitely is abiotic. But back to the soil, the sand and the chunked up rocks are abiotic without a doubt. But the dead leaves, the remains of dead animals, the poo that gets broken into the soil, worms are very busy, right? All that poo and stuff, that part of the soil is organic, is biotic. So soil is both. There's rocks and sand that's abiotic, but animal remains and leaf litter, all of that stuff that's in soil is biotic. So it's both. So yes, definitely. That's what I was looking for specifically, the sunlight. Okay, you also have the temperature that's going on in this picture that you can't see. You have the clouds. Okay, we labeled the rain, but we didn't label the clouds. Okay, those are all abiotics. Now let's think of some biotics that aren't labeled. Who can think of some? We got bugs down here. There's only 1 or 2 that aren't labeled. What do you think? What's some biotic stuff that's not labeled? It's kind of picky there. Can you find the biotics that aren't listed? How about the grass? Okay, grass isn't labeled. That's a biotic. And the pine trees, we got this little fruit tree, but we didn't label the pine trees. Those are also biotic. Okay, so most of the biotics are listed here, even the bugs and crap in the soil. All right, so now so we got the difference between biotic and abiotic. Now, if we take every single biotic component, every single biotic thing in the world, we can divide them into two categories. The droplets of moisture in the air, abiotic. Yes, ma'am, perfect. Perfect. The droplets of moisture in the air would be abiotic. Good thinking. Good thinking, baby. Now, if we think of every biotic thing in the world, it can be broken down into two categories. No matter what we're talking about it, it's two categories, producer or consumer. All right. Now, you know enough that the producers are the ones that make their own food using sunlight, plants basically. And then consumer, they have to eat something else. Okay, they have to eat the producers or eat some consumer. So producer versus consumer. Now, you know that the producers are the ones who are doing photosynthesis. They can make their own food using sunlight. Now, when I say they make their own food, okay, I know you can make a peanut butter sandwich. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking they stand out in the sun. The sun hits them and they are no longer hungry. Okay, we can't do that. Okay, that's what photosynthesis basically is. All right, so we're going to focus on the producers for today. Tomorrow we're going to cover the consumers, okay, the herbivores, carnivores. We're going to do that tomorrow. So today we're focusing on producers. All right, so that means, of course, we're going to be focusing on the photosynthesis. Oh, I forgot to say, the producers here are called autotrophs, okay, and consumers are called heterotrophs. Now, the word troph we're going to be using a lot today. The troph, okay. Have you ever seen on farms the big metal tins that they use? They can feed like 3 or 4 horses out of one big tin, or a big round one to water 8 or 10 cows, or the things that they slop pigs in. Those big containers are called troughs, and trough means to feed. So producers are called autotrophs. Okay, and so autotroph, you remember autobiography? Auto means self, because you wrote that yourself, right? Autobiography. So producers are called autotrophs. So they feed themselves. Consumers are called heterotrophs, and hetero means outside of or different from, and you've used that part before. You know, homosexual, heterosexual. Hetero means different or outside from yourself. And so heterotroph means they feed from outside themselves. Hetero means different than. So they are different feeders. They have to feed from the outside. So producers are called autotrophs and consumers are called heterotrophs. Make sure that you know that well, because sometimes I'll be referring to one or the other and not give you the hint. Okay, I may just say heterotrophs or this and that and the other, and I won't tell you that I mean consumers. Okay, so make sure you're good with that. All right, so to working into photosynthesis again, we're focusing mostly on producers today. You remember from middle school and elementary school that we're talking the plants take in sunlight. You know this. They take in sunlight, they take in carbon dioxide and some water. They do their little bit of magic. They make glucose and they give us oxygen as a byproduct. Now, oxygen, remember, they're not making the oxygen because they love us. All right, that's just a byproduct of photosynthesis. So basically, it's a plant fart. I mean, they don't do it because they love us. It's just a byproduct of their reaction. All right, so we know this part. We've learned this. They bring in sunlight, they bring in carbon dioxide, they bring in water, they do their little bit of magic, and they give off oxygen when they make their glucose. But that's not all. Okay, you had a whole chapter in biology on photosynthesis, so you know that's not all. But I'm not talking Krebs cycle and Calvin cycle. I'm not talking that kind of stuff. I'm talking, did you realize that they are taking light energy and turning it into chemical energy? They are changing one form of energy into another. They're actually doing like major processes that most of our machines can't even do. They are turning one type of energy into another type of energy, radiant energy into chemical. But that's not even all beyond that. They are taking something abiotic, sunlight, and changing it into something biotic, glucose. So not only are they doing an energy exchange, they're changing from something abiotic into something biotic. So all of that stuff is pretty cool. That, like I said, I know that you've learned it in biology class, the Krebs cycle, Calvin cycle, ATP, and all that stuff. We don't even have to deal with that. We just want to talk about they're changing radiant energy into chemical energy. And they're changing something abiotic into something biotic. You will have to remember the formula, though. We always have to remember the formula. So here's a copy of it right here. You've got the 6 carbon dioxide. If you know, you just remember the sixes, okay? The 6 carbon dioxide, the 6 water, you add the light energy. You're going to make a single glucose atom molecule because that's what this is for. And then you got 6 oxygens. So the big number for all three is a 6. Okay, 6 carbon dioxide, 6 waters, plus the light energy is going to give you a single glucose molecule plus the 6 oxygens left over. And of course, you have to remember the formula for glucose, C6H12O6. All right, so just make sure you remember that. Yes, yeah, the plants convert the light energy into chemical energy, and the chemical energy is stored in carbohydrates. Like, yeah, yes. So glucose is a type of carbohydrate. So yes, the glucose is the storage mechanism for that chemical energy. Yes, that's correct, baby doll. The glucose is the storage for that the chemical energy. And what glucose, the difference between glucose and carbohydrates, if you remember from biology, it's like a difference between pennies and dollars. The glucose is a single unit of energy where the carbohydrates are dollars, and you get big starches are more like $20 or $50. Okay, so the glucose is the individual little pennies. So they're the small little atom. So yeah, that's what we got going on. So just make sure that you can remember the formula, and this is the main part I need you to remember: the chemical energy, the radiant energy into chemical energy, and the abiotic into biotic. Now, when we're talking about types of producers, okay, because again, this is where we're getting into a little bit more specifics. The types of producers, a lot of us would automatically think, you know, what types of producers? A daisy, a rose, a tree, grass. Well, I'm going to get even more specific than that. So these are our land producers, the types of producers on land, which would be grasses and trees. Okay, but that's just on land. Grasses, trees, even the skinniest little rose, skinniest little thorn bush, the meanest looking cactus, all of those are producers. Okay, no matter how scratchy and dry it looks, it's still a producer doing photosynthesis. But that's on land. On near the shore, either in freshwater or ocean water near the shore, we're going to have algae and water plants, aquatic plants. This is algae, okay, seaweed. But algae is also, there are single-celled algae, the green pond scum. Okay, that's also algae. That's microscopic algae. This is multicellular algae, but it's still algae. Okay, these are seaweeds. All right, so when you have on land, you'll have the grasses and trees. In the freshwater and in ocean near the shore, you'll have algae and aquatic plants. In the open ocean, you'll have these guys. A lot of us don't even think about these little guys. These are phytoplankton. Okay, you know plankton, like SpongeBob's buddy, right? Phytoplankton, phyto comes from the word for light. So phytoplankton do photosynthesis. They float across the open ocean near the surface, and they do photosynthesis for us all across the ocean. Okay, now those are phytoplankton. There's another type called zooplankton. Zoo, the word for animal. Okay, so phytoplankton does photosynthesis. Zooplankton eats them. Okay, so there's two different types of plankton, but the phytoplankton does photosynthesis out in the open ocean. Zooplankton eats them. Okay, so these different types of producers are some that we may not have given thought to. When we say producers, we mean a tree, right? It's not just a tree. Okay, on land, we'll have all of these different possibilities. You'll have, hang on, let me get that picture big. It's not a great clear picture. You know, the magnolia, moss, green algae, peace lilies, ferns, sago palms, ginkgo trees, which are pretty interesting, daffodils, spider plants. It's not all, of course. Fir trees, cactuses, spruce trees, cane plants. Okay, all of these different plants, they're all land producers. These algae and aquatic plants are found near the shore of both freshwater and ocean water. And then phytoplankton are out in the open ocean. Phyto, they do photosynthesis, and then the zooplankton eat them. All right, how do we do today? Can we have a thumbs up? We are just about done with our lesson for today. Let's see, there we go. All right, can I have another thumbs up? How do we do today? Do you understand what's going on? Can I have some thumbs up? Algae, bacteria, phytoplankton. Yes, yes, all of these, well, there's no need to say primary producers because there's no secondary producer. A lot of the articles will call them primary producers, but there's no secondary producer. It's just producer. So you can do it either way, but there's only the one type of producer. So you can skip the primary because there's no secondary if you want to. All right, good. I see some thumbs up. Those were great questions, by the way, baby girl. Alexandria, those were great questions today. Good, good. All right, very good. So these are my thumbs up for people who are understanding today's lesson. You got it pretty good? Like I said, most of it's review, okay? Like you remember photosynthesis and you know what producers and consumers are. It's just the details of different aspects of it. Okay, good, good. I think we're good. Does anybody have any questions for me? Kind of out of lesson, but ocean acidification. Yes, ocean acidification is gonna, yeah, just like the oceans become more acidic because of the carbon dioxide that we're adding to the environment, heat that we're adding. Both of those things are going to make the ocean more acidic, and we know for a fact they're killing the corals. And yes, as they kill the corals, they will also kill the phytoplankton, which are the basis of most of the ocean food chains. The open ocean food chains all start with phytoplankton. Okay, because if the zooplankton's out there, they got nothing to eat. So yeah, the ocean acidification is going to affect the phytoplankton just as hard as it's going to affect the corals, which corals is another question we came up with earlier today. Is a coral going to be considered a producer or a consumer? A coral is a symbiotic relation between a photosynthetic algae, which that is a producer, and the coral polyp, which that's the one who makes the skeleton that you actually see as coral, but the coral polyp is a consumer. So nobody's going to ask you to label coral as producer versus consumer because it's both. But yeah, the ocean acidification is going to affect that as well. Good. Those are good questions, guys. Anybody else? Beautiful. All right, well, let me flip over here and we're going to stop our recording. Let's see, stop the recording and yep, stop.